We're here at Scottsdale Stadium for Justin Verlander's first ever Giants start in spring training. He had a 2-inning performance. This is what he had to say after the game.
You know, obviously hung a slider that I gave up a home run on. I've more noticed it on the fly ball. The ball just never came down. You know, I wasn't sure if it was going to go out or not, and it just went out by a fair bit. I was told not to over concern yourself with pitch shapes here and the movement of the ball because it's tough. But I'm hypercritical. So, but overall, healthy. Thought the velo was okay for first start of spring. Better than what I was doing last year, so that's a big improvement. Overall pleased. First spring training in Arizona, so everybody's like, "Hey man, it's a little different out here." I've heard it from everyone. But I think you still need to be, honest with yourself.
Is it hard for you not to get wrapped up in the shapes and that,
I try not to take too much into shapes. I try to take more away from hitter reactions. So, but it's also like going into Colorado or Arizona where the pitch shapes aren't going to react the exact same. So, it actually is a new challenge for me in spring because on one hand, you feel like you need to, you come out of starting okay, do I need to work on that, or is it just the air and it's not quite catching the way I would have it normally? So, that's something that I'm going to have to really think about. Webby was very helpful with me talking about his spring training last year and what he was dealing with and how he was seeing the results not be great at all, and then he comes into the season and it's right where he wanted it. So I think a lot of pitchers, me in particular, have a tendency to be a little overcritical and maybe tinker when you don't need to sometimes. So I'm trying to balance that. This is the first time I've had competition, so
we'll be going home with 2 tickets to the Phoenix Raceway.
I'll think about it.
Yeah,
I'll be thinking about it all night. Won't get much sleep.
Where was your velo about this time last year?
I wasn't throwing this time last year, so.
Oh yeah. When you were at about this stage.
I've been all over the place. I've been, as a young kid, for whatever reason, I couldn't throw hard this time of year. I was topping out at 92, 93, hitting a 94, and then I would throw 100 in the season. And then there's been times where I'm, touching 96 like I did today and just kind of stay there. But I've been through so many mechanical changes. I don't know what's going to happen. I know that my average velo today was better than it was in the season last year, so that's something that I'm pleased with.
How has your body felt just as you started to let it go a little bit more in your pens and the sort of recovery day after that? Are you bouncing back like you always have, or are you finding you have to do some extra?
Good question. I feel like physically I'm bouncing back like I normally do. I don't get too sore. But I've added a lot of things in my program, so and a new staff here. So I'm also trying to be open to some new stuff coming into my program. Really, it's I feel like I'm starting from scratch. You build up all these tendencies over time, and it's I had a bunch of superstitions or things I like to do before my start that weren't necessarily the best thing, like eating Taco Bell the night before back in the day. And then, my first bad season, I'm like, all right, well, this is, I get to get rid of that, get rid of that one. So, this year I committed to changing a bunch of stuff going into the off season, and I'm just kind of riding that wave. And even into spring now, it's just I'm trying to feel things out and see if anybody has something that can, help me be better. But as far as specific recovery in my body, I actually feel great.
So what does Justin Verlander think about the ABS system, the automatic balls and strikes? They're robo-umps. Take a listen.
What have you heard or learned so far about the ABS system for the games?
I haven't really learned much. I did a couple rehab starts last year and dealt with it. Look, it's not going to be Major League Baseball this year. I haven't really dug into it. I would hope that if they do want to implement it, that they would talk to the pitchers and hitters, obviously. Some of the guys I talked to from AAA I think they kind of pushed it back a little bit, so it's it's not catching the breaking ball at the front. I think that there's a world here where you could do it really interesting. Where umpires are set up, look, I don't want to be somebody that's sitting here saying like the game needs to be a certain way, and I like it the old way. And I think that technology is a huge advantage, and the game needs to adapt with that. But I think part of the great thing about the game of baseball is the umpires back in the day, you go into a scouting report and it's like, hey, this guy gives you a little bit here, he takes away there, he's tight here, he's not there. And that was always fun to work with. You're working with the umpire, and now it's like, they're kind of boxed into this zone that they don't necessarily want to call. Like there's certain spots where they, the way that every umpire sets up, they have a little bit of a blind spot in certain places. And if you look at the umpire's strike zone, technically it's more of a blob than it is an exact square. And there could be a fun way to be like, hey, this is the umpire's strike zone today. Here's what you got to work with. And that way, everybody's comfortable and knows where the zone is. But I don't know. I don't have enough experience with it yet to really give my opinion. But I don't know. I think it's in the right vein. Meaning you miss the egregious ones, the close ones. If you only have 2 appeals and you take a close pitch in the 3rd inning with 2 outs and nobody on, hey, these umpires are pretty damn good too. Sorry for saying damn, but these guys are the best in the world at what they do. It's hard to be perfect, and if you're going to say something, go ahead and challenge it. If not, then go ahead, because it looked pretty good to me. So I like that it doesn't take away the ability for the catcher to frame pitches. Patty's one of the best in the game at that, if not the best. So it doesn't take that away, but it takes away the egregious ones, and then it also takes the big spot, close ones where you can, make sure the call's right. So, I'm not opposed. I think there's something there.
Did you use any challenges on your rehab assignments?
I did. I actually told our catcher last year that, hey, you're the catcher. You see the zone way more clear than I do, and I'll leave that up to you. The first time he didn't appeal, and I thought it was a strikeout. I was right, though, but, yeah, it was just I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how teams mitigate, overzealous players who want every call, because when we see those guys, right, you see there's every time a player thinks they're right? You want to call in a big spot, or the hitter thinks it didn't go their way. You don't want to burn you don't want to burn them situationally when they don't really matter. So I don't know. That'll be interesting to see how it's navigated.
We also had the chance to talk to Verlander about the differences between doing spring training in Florida and Arizona.
When you compare Florida to Arizona, what's the best thing about it, being here, and the worst thing about being here?
I mean, the best thing is the area, the ease of travel for everybody. The worst thing about it, having trouble sleeping a little bit, time change wise, waking up super early, and my family's not here. That's by far the toughest.
And there you have it. That's Justin Verlander's first ever post-game press conference as a Giant. 2 innings, 1 run, 1 home run. The numbers don't matter at this point. It's the feel, how his body reacts. And he looked very happy after his first ever Giant start here in spring training. We'll see what's next for the veteran with the 35.